What's up, guys? Welcome to the studio. So the first prop that we'll be looking at is Velvet Scarlatina's Anesidora, or her camera, from RWBY. And this prop, or this 3D model, is brought to you by me! Now, full disclosure, I did not 3D model this. I'm still a novice 3D modeler. I can make basic shapes, and I'm still kind of learning the ropes, especially with parametric 3D modeling software. So I figured if I was going to do this build any justice, I would need to reach out to somebody who was much more skilled than I am, because if you can't tell, this thing's got a lot of complex shapes. I mean, quite a few of them are relatively basic shapes, but even so, if you're going to make something with any degree of detail, best to just reach out to somebody else. Now, the person who I reached out to, his Fiverr page is bjoy3D Home. Very skilled. He did a really great job. I think he mostly focuses on 3D models that are used for game development or game assets, but he's done a pretty good job with things that can be 3D printed, for example. He goes by Pritom. I highly recommend his services. And yeah, great thing with Fiverr is that if you ever reach out to somebody to create a 3D model, unless explicitly detailed in their Fiverr page, you as the person commissioning them technically own the 3D model. Will I ever release this 3D model into the wild? Maybe. But for now, if you guys are interested in having this prop for yourself, if you're thinking about cosplaying Velvet or have a friend who's a fan of the show, I'll be selling the 3D prints on eBay. Unpainted, of course, because painting it takes quite a while. But anyway, yeah, onto the review. So for this 3D print, I pretty much just separated out the 3D model into 3 different pieces: the main body, the whole lens assembly, and the flash mechanism. So for the sake of posterity, just in case I ever do release the 3D model as kind of like a subscriber milestone or whatever, this is going to be just the orientation that you're going to want to 3D print them. Right now I have them scaled up to 800%, but I'll probably properly scale it for you guys in the future before I do release it. But either way, you're just going to print the main body in its regular orientation. You could flip it on its back and then save a bit of filament, but you know, unless you have really good build adhesion, I wouldn't recommend that too much. You might end up with some curling on the edges either way. It's not too big of a deal. I mean, the lens, pretty basic, pretty simple, no supports for that one. The flash mechanism, now this sort of satellite dish looking motherfucker, it is like paper thin. It's going to print it in 1 line width. So you might end up with a bit of what do you call it? Like you're gonna end up with like some gaps in here. It's not gonna be perfect, you know. It'll look fine. You could probably use some putty or whatever to fill the gaps, but either way, yeah, this is the orientation of each of the pieces that I recommend that you print it in. I would definitely not recommend printing them all at once though. You're definitely going to want to print them one at a time and then just make sure everything's all good. Another thing is that I will probably separate out these little hinges. They're very delicate, and oftentimes you're going to end up with some flaws in them just because of how delicate they are, as well as the angle. But either way, yeah. It's a fairly straightforward print, and painting it's no big deal either. It's quite sturdy, feels good in the hands, and I do believe that the side loops are more than sturdy enough to attach some camera straps. Okay, the next 3D model we'll be looking at is Penny's Floating Array Sword, also from RWBY. This 3D model is brought to you by Julian Danzer. I feel like I've covered quite a few of his 3D models so far, just from this whole RWBY 3D printed model series. But either way, he makes good stuff. So that aside, this 3D model is fairly straightforward, just like Pyrrha's spear. You just gotta 3D print it and then either buy or 3D print some 4mm thick rods that will go all the way through the length of the prop. Now, if you look at this, you might think that it's perfectly symmetrical, but it is not. This little thing right here, there's like a difference. So if you want to 3D print 2 of them like I did, then you're going to need to mirror at least this kind of section right here. Since it is a fairly basic shape with no moving parts, the assembly process is quite straightforward. Pretty much just gotta fill the holes with some sort of cheap glue or whatever. I went with the clear Gorilla Glue brand of glue. Okay, so these two swords are pretty horribly balanced. Because, I mean, if you hold them by the handle like you should, the rest of the weight is pretty much just out there. And their center of balance is about right here, which does give me an idea. After that, it was a simple matter of spray painting, hand painting, and adding a touch of glow-in-the-dark resin just to give it that extra cool factor. I also added these 3D printed loops to the center mass of these swords, but I was kind of a dumbass and glued it on the wrong orientation, but I managed to make it work somehow. Alright, these two 3D printed props were pretty straightforward, pretty easy to assemble, and now that I've gotten pretty close to building just about every weapon from the main cast of RWBY, it should be pretty easy to guess what I'm probably going to build next. At least when it comes to the interesting weapons. Anyway, if you guys like this video, go ahead and like, subscribe, or share for more. And I will see ya.